I never thought I'd see my HOA president hanging upside down from my fence, her silver SUV half buried in mud, screaming for help while the local sheriff tried not to laugh. But that's what happens when someone ignores every warning, every sign, every ounce of patience I had left. The funny thing, I didn't lay a single finger on her. The land did all the work. I'm Jack Morley. I grow vegetables, fix fences, and keep to myself on a few acres at the edge of Cedar Valley Estates, a neighborhood so obsessed with aesthetics that even their garbage cans have matching paint. My little plot sits right next to their pristine lawns, a small patch of green in a world of plastic grass and fake smiles. I figured as long as I paid my taxes and stayed off their sidewalks, I'd be left alone. Turns out I was wrong. The trouble started with a tire track, a perfect muddy arc cutting straight through my young lettuce rows. I followed it to the road and found her Karen Whitmore, HOA president, standing by her spotless silver SUV, sunglasses perched on her head like a crown. "Oh, don't mind that," she said with a laugh. "Just checking the boundary line, HOA business." I told her politely that she was standing 2 feet into my land. She smirked. "Funny, that's not what our map says." Then she drove off, spraying my boots with dirt. 3 days later, a letter arrived. Notice of violation, unauthorized planting within 5 feet of HOA fence line. Fine $250. I laughed at first. Then I realized they were serious. I tried to talk it out at the next HOA meeting, but every seat at that long table belonged to one of Karen's friends. The verdict: regulations are regulations. After that, it got worse. Karen started parking her car halfway across my loading drive, claiming farm trucks aren't permitted on community roads. One morning, I caught her walking straight into my vegetable beds with a clipboard, snapping pictures like some kind of suburban inspector. When I posted a video of it on the community board, my post vanished within minutes. Negative content against board members will not be tolerated. It was infuriating. Every rule bent her way, every voice silenced. My wife Laura told me to keep calm. She feeds on reactions, she said. Starve her of them. But I couldn't help it. Every time I saw that smug smile, something twisted in my gut. Then came the final straw. I came home one afternoon to find my irrigation hose ripped clean in half-fresh tire tracks running right through my tomato rows. I marched over to Karen's house and knocked on her door. She opened it halfway, sipping lemonade like a queen on her porch. "You can't keep driving across my land," I said, trying to hold it together. "You're destroying my crops." She blinked, slow and bored. "Jack, if you didn't want people to cross, maybe you shouldn't live next to a shared access road." Then she closed the door in my face. That night I sat at the table staring at the letter she'd taped to my mailbox, another fine this time for unapproved fencing materials. My hands were shaking. I wasn't just angry, I was tired. Tired of fighting someone who had every rule book in her pocket. "Maybe I should just sell it," I muttered. "Find someplace quieter." Laura looked up from her laptop. "You mean run?" she asked. "After everything your father built on this land?" Her voice softened. "She wants you to quit, Jack. She wants to prove the rules matter more than the people." I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. She was right. And right then something in me changed. I stopped thinking like a victim and started thinking like a farmer again, patient, strategic, waiting for the right season to plant payback. The turning point came when Laura pulled up some county zoning records. "See this?" she said, pointing at the screen. "Our property's marked as agricultural runoff zone. That means we're required to maintain drainage for stormwater. You have the right to manage soil elevation for water control." She grinned. "You can't block her car, but you can shape your land however you want." That was all I needed. The next few days I worked quietly. I rented a small excavator, told the neighbors I was adjusting irrigation. I carved a shallow trench exactly along the border Karen loved to cut across. Not deep, just enough to hold water when it rained. Then I built a small berm on the inside, shaping the ground so runoff would flow naturally into that one strip. A farmer's version of a moat. Legal, simple, invisible. When I finished, I posted new signs along the edge. Soil management area, wet surface during rain. Every word true. And then I waited. The weather forecast called for storms that weekend, good heavy ones. As thunder rolled across the valley, I sat on the porch with my coffee and watched the rain fill the trench. The soil drank and swelled until it became dark, glossy mud. Laura peeked through the window. "Think she'll take the bait?" she asked. I smiled. She's never missed a chance to prove she's untouchable. Monday morning came bright and clear. The ground was still soaked. At 8:05 sharp, I heard the familiar purr of her SUV engine. I stepped outside just in time to see her turn the corner, slow down at the wet soil sign, and of course gun it straight through my field. The front tires hit first, slicing in, then sinking. The car lurched wheels, spinning mud flying like confetti. She floored it. The engine screamed and the whole vehicle settled deeper until the frame scraped the ground. She was stuck completely, gloriously stuck. Karen threw open the door and stepped out in white sneakers. The sound she made when her foot disappeared up to the ankle in black sludge music. "You did this!" she shrieked. "You'll pay for this!" I leaned on the fence, voice calm. "Ma'am, the county requires that area stay passable for water, not necessarily for Range Rovers." She screamed something about lawsuits and stormed off, or tried to. Her shoes stayed behind. 15 minutes later, a tow truck arrived, a battered old monster, with Bubba's Recovery Service painted on the side. Out climbed a man who looked like he wrestled tractors for breakfast. He barely glanced at me. "Where's the stuck vehicle?" "Right there," I said, pointing toward the mud. "You can use the gravel lane on the side. It's compacted perfectly solid." He snorted. "That little path, nah. I'll take the direct route." Before I could stop him, he drove straight into the field. The truck sank almost instantly, tearing up my rows, snapping irrigation pipes like twigs. I ran forward, yelling, "Stop! You're destroying my crop!" Bubba slammed it in reverse, the engine roaring, the wheels gouging deeper craters. Water started bubbling up from the broken line, turning everything into a swamp. "Get off my land!" I shouted right up to his window. He climbed down, towering over me, mud dripping from his boots. "Lady paid me to do a job," he said, shoving me hard in the chest. "Now get out of my way." I hit the ground, the shock stealing my breath. For a second I saw Karen on the road, smiling that cruel little smile. Something inside me snapped. I got up, slow, steady. "You shouldn't have done that," I said quietly. He took another step forward, and that was his mistake. I didn't throw a wild punch. I used what 40 years of hauling equipment teaches you: momentum. I drove my shoulder into him hard. He stumbled back, slipped, and fell into the mud with a splash that would have made a hippo proud. He came up swinging, but the muck worked in my favor. We slid, wrestled, grunted like animals, until headlights flashed and a siren wailed. "Sheriff's deputy." Finally, the deputy waded in, calm as can be. "All right, gentlemen, tools down." I dropped the wrench I hadn't even realized was in my hand. The officer looked around the broken pipe, the churned field the two of us covered, head to toe in mud. Then he turned to Karen, who started shrieking about being attacked. He didn't say a word, just watched the footage Laura handed him from our security camera. Everything her driving through the mud. Bubba ignoring my warning, the shove, the damage. When the video ended, he sighed. "Ma'am, you're getting cited for trespass." "Sir," he turned to Bubba, "you're under arrest for assault and property destruction." Karen's face collapsed. She tried to protest, but the deputy had already turned away. The tow truck left on another smaller truck that night, both of them covered in shame. A week later, the HOA called a special meeting to discuss the incident. I almost didn't go, but Laura insisted. Let them see the truth. The room was packed. Karen sat at the front, polished and smug again, spinning her story, how I'd built a trap and endangered the community. People nodded along until Laura stood up silent as stone and plugged a projector into the wall. "First slide our property map. Red line. This is the legal boundary. Next, photos of our warning signs. Then video. Karen's SUV cutting through my land, laughing at the sign. Gasps all around. Followed by the tow truck footage, the flooding pipe, the shove, and finally the sheriff's citation. When the video ended, you could hear the air conditioning hum. Then someone in the back spoke. "Last month, she fined me for having a garden gnome too tall. What's the fine for trespassing?" That broke the dam. One neighbor after another stood up stories about Karen's petty fines, her threats, her power trips. She tried to bang her gavel, but nobody listened. By the end, the board voted unanimously to remove her from the presidency. Just like that, the Queen of Cedar Valley lost her crown. 2 weeks later, I received a check from Small Claims Court damages for the crops, the pipe, the contamination. $7,100 and change. Enough to fix the land, rebuild the line, and install a new gate. The kind that swings open for rain, but never for Range Rovers. The last time I saw Karen, her house had a for sale sign out front. The silver SUV was gone. The neighborhood was quiet again, almost too quiet. I walked the fence that morning, ran my hand along the new steel gate, and looked out over the fresh-tilled rows. The soil was still dark from rain, rich and calm. I didn't win by yelling louder or hitting harder. I won by standing my ground literally. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't loud, it's patient, legal, and carved right into the earth.